late to the show, may not be able to make it tonight, but we're going to hold it down. Chris Mason and myself, Chris Griffin, Chris Mason, Horns Down Podcast, and Sooners 360. Look down below. You'll see in the link direct there. We're going to get right to the business tonight. Folks, we have a really good episode for you guys. So if you're wanting a lot of recruiting notes, a lot of recruiting news, me and Chris Mason, we always do this, and we will be doing these videos again this season. Not periodically, but hopefully we'll be able to do them weekly, maybe even, bi-weekly or whatnot. But we'll be able to bump out some recruiting videos. But if you want recruiting news, no fluff, just straight answers, guys that are just really talking to this, and a guy that lives this and breathes this or whatnot, is no better place than to be here right now. So with that being said, Chris Mason, I mean, where do we begin? This is a huge weekend. The weather is crazy here in Norman, so hopefully that's not making a bad impression and that's not a recruiting pitch against us itself. But, I guess we're just trying to figure out, like, who's all here that you know of, and that the notable guys, I guess, at least. And, what are you hearing, as far as the visits starting now?
Well, everyone who's supposed to be here is here. That's the word I've gotten from my sources. A couple of players canceled their visits, or OU canceled their visits. It's a little hard to tell. That's pretty common when you start getting into June and things get pretty fluid. So in terms of the big names that are here, there's only one name that's missing, and I kind of thought he might cancel. The only big name that's not on campus that was supposed to be maybe early in the week is the Hawaii linebacker Talanoa Ely. He's at USC instead. On some level, if he doesn't visit in June, and I'm fine with that, and maybe OU holds back his official visit, maybe he verbals to USC, which is probably what's going to happen, or UCLA, and maybe in the fall, if OU's having a good year, they still got an official visit left, and they can bring him in when perhaps it's a little bit, it's more meaningful, and they try and flip him after they perhaps had a good season on the field. So that's the only big name that's missing, that's not on campus, that was supposed to be. A couple of linebackers that didn't end up making the visit. The first one is Key Beck, or DeCavies Beck from Carthage. I think OU may have canceled that visit and moved off. I think he's heading to A&M anyway. And with Ja'Cory Smith already verbal, they're very similar players. I think OU perhaps, this is you don't want to waste official visits, and you don't want to bring in long shots at this point, right? You want to make sure that with these two big weekends in June, you're bringing in kids that you have that you don't want to waste and diffuse your recruiting message this weekend with kids. Some kid who's talking about A&M left and right. And then Adam Balagon Ali, the linebacker from Florida. I think he's probably going to try and stay in the Southeast. Again, I think OU could maybe bring him in the fall if OU's having a good season and they need another linebacker in the class. So why waste a visit now when the guy's leaning elsewhere? Bring him back maybe in the fall if you need another linebacker and you've got a stronger on-the-field message from a recruiting perspective. So those are some of the players that are not on campus. But, the first name, obviously, who is on campus confirmed, he's in Norman, is Bo Bentley, right? We got through the LSU visit. We got through, he didn't verbal while at LSU. He didn't verbal right after LSU. And he's in Norman giving OU their chance to put their best foot forward. I think we'll see a decision from him quickly after the OU visit. So this is OU's chance to kind of make a big statement, put LSU away, get some distance, and and land a quarterback that, despite our disagreements over it, this is the guy that we get a sense that Arbuckle really wants. So get that quarterback, get him in the class, lock him down, and I think that would help greatly with two big wide receivers that are on campus. Actually, there's three wide receivers on campus this weekend, Chris. We have Davion Gross from Lone Star Frisco. He's a top 50 player in the nation. He plays running back, wide receiver for Lone Star Frisco. He'll be a wide receiver in college. I think he could be elite. He has the physical skills. He has that ability. He has connections to OU through his mom. And then we have Dallas Dickerson, the wide receiver from Georgia, who's a late offer, one of the Nagy offers after Nagy came in. And he's 6'1", 180 pounds, and he is a burner. Everyone makes jokes, I don't know that, it's very relevant these days, but obviously one's like, you see a white receiver and you hear the cliche that, it's like a coach on the field. He's heady, he's such a fundamentals guy, he's a possession receiver. Well, throw out all those sort of whatever cliches you want to, because Mr. Dickerson can ball and he can run.
Hey, I mean, the thing is that when they talk about, if you want to see a great route tree, a lot of DBs in the league, they talk about Hunter Renfrow, and then also you see Ladd McConkey out there. So
yeah,
I mean, hey, it's not foreign to see,
Well, I grew up in Oklahoma, the mid '80s, so it was like Steve Largent, with the Seahawks, that was he was the ultimate sort of cliche wide receiver, the white wide receiver cliche. But Dickerson he's a speedster. He runs a 10-3, 100 meters. You watch him on film, and he is flat out separating from guys left and right. And this is Georgia high school football talent, good programs he's playing. And when you see him, I mean, no one catches him. He accelerates away from guys. You see the gap. You don't see guys with angles coming anywhere near him. So he would be a big pickup. He's a 4-star. I think he's going to have a good year and could move into the top 200, top 150 kind of range. Although it's so hard at wide receiver, because as we were talking off air, the wide receiver talent pool is always, it's just so great in high school. I mean, it's ridiculous, really. And then the third wide receiver is from Florida. His name is Jaden Petit. He's 6'4", 200 pounds. He's been to OU twice. He came in for a visit during the spring. He's a big guy. Some services are listed him at tight end. I think he's probably just a big flanker, a big wide receiver. I'm not sure where he is in terms of a decision-making process, but he's coming back for OU. OU is spending an official visit on him, where they've moved off some other wide receivers. So I think those three wide receivers are, if Bo Bentley is leaning to OU, those wide receivers are gonna gravitate towards him. We may get some signs. If one of those guys pops, we may get a sign that maybe Bo Bentley was part of that recruiting process. So that's the quarterback wide receiver battle. If you ask me for one name that I think has grown in importance the last 2 weeks, it is a linebacker from Arkansas. We already have one verbal linebacker from Arkansas, and Ja'Cory Smith. Then we have another guy visiting from Arkansas his name is Braxton Lindsey. He's 6'3", 220, very athletic, big frame, would be the athletic big frame Mike linebacker that I think OU needs in this class. And obviously some linebackers have fallen off. The Ben Wenzel kid from Wisconsin chose Wisco. He's not coming in for his official visit. I mentioned Talanoa Ely is probably going to choose USC. So just some other names that OU have dropped off. And I think Lindsey is the Mike linebacker OU needs. He's a big guy. Sort of in this frame-wise reminds you a little bit of a Danny Stutzman, 6'3", 6'4", 220 in high school. Just this really good athlete that OU can then mold into a Mike linebacker. So, last year OU went to Arkansas and got two safeties, Marcus Wimberly and Amarian Robinson. And I think this year OU may go to Arkansas and get two linebackers. And in fact, there's another Arkansas player, Matthew Nelson, who I think is going to verbal to the Sooners probably. He's a teammate of Ja'Cory Smith at Bryant High School. So we could see three Arkansas high school players in the class. And I'm not sure we're going to see more than three Oklahoma high school players in the class. I mean, depending upon what you think about Jaden O'Neal, whether Jaden O'Neal is a Oklahoma high school player or not.
What's up with so Topher B says T-Ron Richardson. So that's a D tackle out of Virginia, right?
Yep.
So you heard about that?
Yeah, so he was supposed to come in midweek, and I think OU convinced him to come in with everybody else so that they could give him a focused experience around the other players. It's really the upside with him. He's very raw, but he's 6'5", 285, and he moves incredibly well for that size. So I'm not sure where he is in the pecking order. OU already got Brian Harris. They have two other defensive tackles who are going to be on campus this weekend, and Elijah Golden and Tavion Branch. Golden seems like more of a reach. I think OU is probably in a Rutgers battle for Tavion Branch. And obviously he's from Pennsylvania. So Rutgers is sort of, in his part of Pennsylvania, Rutgers is probably more of a local school for those of you not quite familiar with Northeast geography. Rutgers, recruits Pennsylvania heavily just because it's neighboring state. So OU's got one defensive tackle. They got three visiting this weekend, and then they've got two visiting on June 20th. So I think they have 3 to 4 spots. So I think the next verbal makes things a little bit tight in terms of the defensive tackles in the room. So Elijah Golden from Florida, he's been flying a little bit under the radar in terms of OU's interest level. So I'm not quite sure where OU stands with him. Notre Dame seems like the leader, but Notre Dame's been adding D-line in their class at a pretty heavy rate. So I'm not sure if they still have room for him. He's more of a 3-tech. He's 6'4", 275, 280, very quick inside. Would probably play around 290, 295, and be just very, very quick inside as a 3-tech. Tavion Branch, who I mentioned, is more of, I think, going to be an athletic nose guard. He's already 6'4", 295. And he looks lean at that. He easily could play at 6'4", 320. So that would be the big tackle. T-Ron Richardson, again, like I said, he's 6'5", 285 right now. He could easily be 6'5", 315 and as an athletic as all get out, Chris. And just, this is an example of you give Todd Bates the raw materials and let it bake for 2 years, and then you're gonna have yourself potentially a defensive tackle who could compete for all SEC. I mean, Richardson's athleticism and measurables are like NFL measurables. He's just raw. He's just not as developed as some of the other kids in the class. But this is a little bit of what Nagy's betting on, right? That with the right development staff, you take these kids with NFL measurables who need a couple of years to bake, and you take some undervalued by the recruiting services. They're not as developed as some other kids, but they also probably aren't going to. This is something we have to start preparing. That we're going to see Nagy take more of a sort of an NFL draft model, where he's going to take kids with NFL measurables that need development work that aren't going to cost a lot of NIL money, because he's banking on the OU development process. We've been talking about how do you invest and develop. This is kind of what Nagy's doing a little bit, right? You sign someone like Teron Richardson. He doesn't cost the same amount of money as someone like Davarian Geralds, the defensive tackle from Georgia, who's probably going to Ole Miss or maybe Michigan. Let's just say his dollar figure is let's just say it's $400,000, right? And he's 6'1", 270, and he's probably going to max out at 6'1", 285, 290. That's probably as big as he can get. And he's probably pretty close to a finished product just because of he's worked really hard and his ability. So, you pay $400 a year for him to sit behind the guys we already have. And then he's incrementally only going to get slightly better. Or do you take a gamble on someone who's 6'5", 285, who can be 6'5", 315, and you get him for, say, $50K, and you're able to, invest that money, and then when they're ready to hit the field, and they start making plays on the field, you can bump up their NIL. So it's a long play. It's going to be interesting to see how it works. OU's still recruiting high-end, talent at line, at defensive line. It was such a big defensive line class overall. Todd Bates has found some guys he really likes, like Brian Harris, who's already verbaled. So do you take Davarian Geralds, who again is 6'1", 265, 270, or do you take Brian Harris, who's 6'4", 290, and they both could be ready to play after a redshirt year, but Harris is as quick as Geralds, but he's just a bigger, taller, athlete. So I got to disagree with Unc there. I see the measurable. I see it on film. I see the burst. I see the explosion on film. It's raw. There's no doubt about that. But he's and he's a track athlete. So he's been spending a lot of time in his off season. He runs the hurdles. So he spends a lot of time in the off season doing track. He drops weight to do track because the bulk doesn't work for him when he's doing the 110 hurdles, right? And that, he being 6'5", 230 doesn't work when he's doing the hurdles, right? So he keeps himself lean. I think he's going to he comes in, let's say he enrolls early, he redshirts, and then he's 6'5", he's 6'5", 230, and then, after another year, he's 6'5", 245. He runs a 4.6, and he's got a huge wingspan and a big frame, and he's got that burst and twitch. So, I think OU's not banking on him being a player year one, right? OU's going to spend when you talk about why do you take Matthew Nelson? So you can spend your NIL money on Jake Krull, right? So Jake Krull is in your rotation year one if he comes in early. He's a highly developed pass rusher. So you spend the money there, and you're not, you got to get used to this model of how, if you find guys with the right measurables and you develop them right, they're going to pay off big for you. And this is how NFL teams feast on 4th and 5th round draft picks, right? They basically find guys at those levels, develop them, and that's how they make their roster work. So it's, OU is preparing for a house settlement world. It's preparing for a world where there are definitely some, there's some salary caps that everyone's operating under where you just can't just throw money at every player. So I think, OU's starting that model, and these are the kind of guys that, have historically paid off for OU. the comp used by Josh McQuistion on Sooner Scoop for Brian Harris was Adrian Taylor. Adrian wasn't the big guy when OU signed him. It was Gerald McCoy. But Adrian Taylor, if not for a devastating ankle injury against Stanford, he was an old Big 12 player for us. So, and he would have been a second or third round pick coming out of college if he'd been healthy and played in 2010. So I think OU's always done these deals and identified players like this. So I'm not sure where the angst comes over, taking high-level athletes that have serious measurables, and we have a good coaching staff at D-line, and trying to turn them into turn guys with all SEC measurables into all SEC players.
No, that's true. I get that. Let's jump back into the chat real quick. Looks like we got things heating up. Topher B says the House settlement has just been approved, and then obviously Jason's in here. He'll be on here hopefully soon, but he says
he's causing trouble. He's causing trouble in chat. Oh,
yeah, I see that. And then let's go. You got Stevie G in here. Shout out to Stevie G and his Thunder. But he says, "Hey, Chris, since you can read the laws and understand that all the chat combined, can you explain? Explain it next to us." We did that, Stevie G, a while ago, man. Whenever I gave my proposal for how to fix the NIL thing, I broke down pretty much what this House settlement means. So the House settlement pretty much is going to pay $2.8 billion to former and current college athletes. So that's the win in itself for like some of the former guys and stuff like that out there that may be down on their luck, maybe in the middle of the road, or maybe even on their high horse, or whatever the case may be. So that is what it is. But again, people, go back, watch that video. But I will say it again, just kind of briefly, putting it as far as, Jason's in here talking about the clearinghouse, all those different things. What all this boils down to is the NIL. And what this House settlement means now is that what you're seeing OU do, what you're hearing Chris Mason talking about with this model, we have already implemented that model by bringing a guy like Nagy in. A lot of these NFL guys, and this is what I was telling Jason a while ago, these NFL guys are starting to take over. That's why you see a Ron Rivera where you say, why the hell is he at Cal? I'm sure he has ties to Cal or whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, you're bringing NFL models in here because it's more realistic with what's going to happen. Not everybody is going to get paid in this, and not everybody's going to get paid evenly. But when you're doing the revenue sharing, that means that probably 22 or however much percent of that revenue share is going to go to the football team, meaning that other teams like softball, baseball, tennis, any water sports or whatever the case may be, track and field, some of those athletes are not necessarily going to get paid what the quote unquote cream of the crop top quarterback in the nation is going to get paid. So, it's a reality that people have to understand. Whereas, on average, most players on the, college football team will be making well into seven figures. Will be making close to, over $100,000 annually, just as far as just what they're going to get paid directly from these schools. That does not directly include NIL. Those would be, pretty much outside source payments that you would have to get cleared through the clearinghouse with what Jason is talking about. But essentially, you will see something to where the tennis players, the baseball players, or the women's softball player, basketball player, or whatnot, some of them are going to get big money. Don't get it twisted. Some of them are going to get paid big money with NIL deals and endorsements and outside funding. But when you're talking about this direct pay, some of those athletes are going to, they're going to be beneficiaries, which as a college student, if anybody's went to college, anybody's even done trade school, you would love to be able to say, yeah, at the end of each semester or at the beginning of each semester, I'm going to get a $5,000 stipend, right? So even if you're not getting the millions, if you're still getting $5,000 to to 8 to 10 to 12 grand or whatever is going to be your payout, that's still a whole hell of a lot of money. And so you just have to hope these kids don't try to go, blow it on a penthouse suite in college so they can, live the life, right? But pretty much that's what it boils down to. It means that you're going to be able to have direct funding from the schools to where that revenue share is going to be split up in different portions, different sects amongst each varsity sport there. So it's kind of one of those weird but interesting things where OU, I think, has, what did we say last time, Chris Mason, like 30 something sports, whereas like an Ohio State or somebody has like 50 or 60. So you have to figure out how to, pay or split that revenue share up. But pretty much what is linked to is that, the football team, or like the highest ranking sport on campus, which is going to be college football, is going to most likely get 15 to 20% of that. The other percent, I really don't know, but they're getting the large.
It may be something like baseball, legitimately. I'm not a big college baseball, expert, but all of a sudden, like college baseball, I think splits scholarships into quarters and thirds and stuff, right? It may be that you now are able to legitimately offer more scholarships for baseball, right? Just you're able to now provide full, because this. So let's not get all this twisted. So the House settlement establishes a legitimate, approved, pay for play schema for college football. All right. So let's understand that the majority, 70 to 80% of NIL right now is pay for play disguised as marketing, as true marketing deals, right? They're not legitimate. They don't have any ROI. There's no real substance or connection to what they're doing. So the House deal allows colleges to legitimately pay for play, right? And that's what NIL became. It was supposed to be one thing, and they screwed up, didn't have the right, gatekeepers around it. And, and then Texas A&M and that first recruiting class realized, we can pay for play right now, and we can get away with it, and we can pay for recruiting. So the House deal established, and there's so many schools out there that want off this pay for play NIL gravy train, okay? So many of them. And there's more of those colleges than, say, the outliers, who are Texas Tech with the billion-dollar oil gas guy, the Miami guy whose LifeLock identity fraud thing, Ponzi scheme that he's doing, whatever that thing is, SMU throwing around NIL money, punching above their weight. Tennessee doing that as well. Texas A&M, but the majority of the college football powers, their traditional powers, the majority of the schools want off this mess. The college presidents want off this mess. It's siphoning money away from other donations to athletic programs elsewhere. It's a ugly, murky world. Everybody wants off of it. So from that perspective, the House deal gives you a starting point. Now, Jason says the reality is that, the first time the clearinghouse nixes an NIL deal for a big boy program, they'll, courts and fans will try and strike down. But you're not going after the NCAA this time, right? That's one thing this isn't an NCAA rule. This is a collectively bargained class action lawsuit settlement, right? This isn't the NCAA. This isn't something that then just one of their hearings in Indianapolis they came up with. This is a federal judge putting together an arbitrated settlement. And I don't know the courts well enough to say that somebody at Texas A&M is trying to pay some defensive tackle they want out of Texas, and they come up with some bogus $300,000 deal, and the clearinghouse says this is complete crap. This is complete crap. We're striking it down. I don't know that they're going to get any relief by going to the courts, not the federal courts, at least.
So just to jump in here, so I mean, there's going to be a lot of pending battles. Keyword, people, pending battles. So just to kind of let me put on that lawyer hat real quick, just for you guys. So pretty much, Chris Mason, you're on the money, but I will say, just kind of fast forward, thinking with Jason, because Jason's kind of past this right now, because this does give the alley-oop to the NCAA to go ahead and get all this stuff pretty much set up while everything is still under that umbrella. To be honest with you,
but it's not them legislating it. It's not
it's not them legislating it, but we all know they've been waiting on this, because this was their alley-oop, and this, Chris Mason, this is their last chance. This is their last ditch effort to try to stop the inevitable, which is the 4 power conferences, or at least the 2 prima donna conferences, the 2 diva conferences, from bolting off from under your umbrella. So this is their chance to do that. But with this clearinghouse stuff, we've heard this for a while, for this direct pay, this revenue sharing, all the rest of this stuff. It just took this final legislated angle, court case, however you want to spin it. It took that. It takes that now for the NCAA to go ahead and do what they want to do. They needed that last domino to fall, and it did. So to me, the biggest thing that, I think that we have to realize with this is that not everybody's going to get paid.
No. I mean, it's you're exactly right. This is establishing, the tennis team isn't going to start making $1 million now.
No, well, not only that, but even on your football team with the revenue share, not every player on the team is guaranteed to be paid. And to Jason's point, I get the clearinghouse thing, because on one hand, I disagree with Jason, because I say, look, the average NIL deal is nowhere near north of $5,000, in my opinion, from things that I've seen. But on the other end, so I think those will be able to, be easily vetted, right? But on
and I will get to the truth, right? Well, the deals will all have to be the BS right now. Well, this kid's getting this much, this kid's getting this much. It'll end a lot of that.
But no, not necessarily. On the other side, I agree with Jason, simply because, perfect example, Reggie Bush, right? Took them almost damn near, it felt like a decade and a half to figure out. It felt like that and the Barry Bonds steroid case, like that was going on around the same time. So I didn't know which one was going to, come to a butting head and finally just be able to, stop, right? We could stop talking about it. But pretty much those investigations took a while. So I think that you see the NCAA try to make things right on the back end, where on some of the bigger scandals, some of the bigger NIL cases, you're going to see pretty much a lot of titles, a lot of games, and a lot of records be vacated. So I think that's something that the NCAA has to figure out. How do we nip this in the bud? Because your third-party investigation, or independent investigation, or in-house investigation, they have to be top-notch, to the point where they're not just bounty hunters. They're freaking Navy SEALs going out there figuring stuff out, getting it done, and coming back unscathed and showing the public that, hey, we did what we need to do. So that's to me, that's what the NCAA has to do. They cannot have these Reggie Bush cases, these Cam Newton cases, where we all know they got paid, where we all know what was going on. Not saying that it was wrong. These are college kids trying to do best by their family, best for themselves, doing business. It is what it is. It's legal now.
Right, but we'll get a level of transparency around it that we haven't had before. Because if you sign an NIL deal and you don't submit it to the clearinghouse, then obviously you're not following the rules, and that it's declared null and void. So, the biggest point is this gives us a baseline for pay for play, right? Yeah. And that pay for play baseline gives us a foundation to get to a CBA agreement between the players and the colleges, right? We can get to a CBA agreement. You sign the CBA, and the CBA says, we don't have this problem in other sports, right? You don't, this means, pay for play means you're no longer an amateur. You're a professional, right? And we don't have this extra revenue issue from, it's not like Jerry Jones figures out a way to have spend $5 additional million on the salary cap in the NFL, right? And if he did, the Cowboys would be obliterated by Goodell and the Players Association and whatever other entities he was breaking. He'd be breaking his franchise agreement. So I think what you're going to see is, that once you get the House settlement in place, you're going to see that all the colleges, like the SEC, so basically the SEC, I don't know that they have to be students. I think that's one of the things they need to take a hard look at and make some decisions on. I hate that part of it because so many of these guys don't go pro in anything, get hurt, you see a guy like Rocky Bright just got his PhD from OU. He was basically like a 5-star back in 1998. And he couldn't play because he was hurt, but he got his degree at OU, his master's degree at OU, and he just got his PhD at OU. None of that happens without him getting a college paid for, as being a student athlete. So, but I think it's something they're going to have to talk about and have to discuss and change some rules, especially to make the portal thing better. But we've been dealing with the sausage process, right? And it's been terrible. This is our first step towards, okay, this is the grind that's going into the mix, right? This is the blend that's going in the mix. We need a CBA, but I do think we're going to see, for lack of a better term, the SEC is going to come up with a franchise document that the schools are going to have to sign. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be, do you want to be in the SEC playing football? Yes, then you have to agree to this, this, and this. Just like if you buy, just like if the Milwaukee Bucks is sold next week, the person who buys them doesn't get to ignore the salary cap and the CBA, right? Mm-hmm. They don't get to come in and say, well, I'm going to spend $400 million on salaries instead of the, I don't know what the hell NBA salary cap is. Maybe $400 million is low. All right, I'm going to spend $1 billion on salaries, like twice whatever the salary cap is. Mm. Well, they can't do that. They have to abide by these rules. And if you're in the SEC and you're Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Oklahoma, Texas, you're Missouri, Mississippi State, I'll leave Ole Miss that, especially Vandy. Right. There's going to be 10 schools who are like, look, we're sick of this rogue crap. We're going to set rules. Everyone play by the same rules. Go, because the colleges cannot afford this NIL money business. They just can't.
Well, not only that, but NCAA, listen to me, okay? You just got to alley-oop to try to stop the inevitable. There's one other thing that you could do. We're not going to get into that, but I'm just going to name it.
We were talking about recruiting today, right?
Yeah, we get back to that. But there's one thing that we could do that you could definitely fix, tampering. Maybe that would stop so many pissy people from being in an uproar. Kyle Rivers says, with House approved, ticket sales for all sports matters more than ever. Football and softball sell out. Hopefully men's and women's basketball, wrestling, and I say wrestling. You know where I'm from. You know where I come from, wrestling. And other sports can increase their live gate. So, yeah, that's what you're hoping. You're hoping that
you're going to have to get more creative. Like if I'm the softball team, and if I was the Sooners, if I was the football team, I would strongly think about selling logo rights for the jersey, an exclusive logo rights deal, right? Mm-hmm. And if I was the other sports, I would be doing that in a heartbeat, right?
I mean, for basketball, for like women's basketball, different things like that, you kind of have to like the model that has been out there for the longest. That like when I was at OSU, right? They had the whole thing of they were trying to get seats. They were trying to get seats for men's basketball, especially. But it was one of those things where if you bought season tickets for football or basketball, then you automatically got into every other varsity sport there. You got into their games for free. So no matter what, all you got to do is be a student, show your card, you're in there for free because they'd be able to scan and show that you had that plan or whatnot. So it was one of those things where it's like you pay $210 for that and then you're good. So it's just
So I mean, the sad reality is
and they do that
some
in a lot of
sports. Some sports are dying tonight.
Yeah.
Some student athletes are going to lose their scholarships because some sports are going to take a hit. So there's a bunch of student athletes who were using their scholarship to pay for their school and were doing a great job graduating at like 85% rates. There's no pro path for them. There's a lot of student athletes who are losing their scholarships from this decision tonight.
Are we really? See, that's where I just.
They are.
We'll get back to the recruiting, but Chris Mason, I don't know because here's the thing. Here's the thing. People keep saying that, but people also forget that it's a revenue share. So yes, football will get, let's just say if it's 30%, like let's say 70% of it goes to the school, research institutions, all the rest of that stuff that the school is comprised of. That's perfectly fine. But when you look at it, let's just say there's 30% that's left and football gets 15%. And then you're splitting up like 5% for everybody else, right? Let's just try to do as much math as we can to get to the extra 15 on that. There's still dedicated funding that's going to the other sports. So whereas I say maybe there are more roster limitations or whatever the case may be because they can pay you this, I don't think that you're going, even the number one player in tennis and all the rest of the stuff, I think what some people have to understand, like some of these other sports, soccer and all these other things, there are clubs, there are all types of ways to get to the pros. But even at that, Chris Mason, I don't think that even the number 12 or 5 soccer player in the nation is coming to an OU, OSU, or Tulsa thinking that, yeah, I'm about to make, serious NIL money. If somebody
No. You're completely. I'm talking about the fact that there will be sports where they essentially will, from this pay for play, they don't generate any revenue. They're a negative. They are a negative on the ledger. They are in the red.
Yeah, no,
right?
For sure. Yeah.
Right, and that they may turn into walk-on sports where you can play them. You're a really good athlete in high school in tennis, and you want to play tennis at OU, and OU says, yeah, we're not really doing tennis scholarships any longer.
Now, Chris Mason, I need you to back me up on this, okay? I need you to back me up on this because people are I'm sure some people in the comments, I'm sure others who watch this will probably say I am batshit crazy when I say this, but some of the sports that we don't necessarily care about, right?
Okay.
They require more technical skill than my first love, which is basketball, football. They require more
technical support.
They require, well, you say
they require more equipment and more technical support.
I wouldn't necessarily even say equipment, but I would say this right here: soccer, baseball.
Baseball's it's an expensive sport.
Those are expensive sports. I get that, but that's not where I'm going with this. There's a lot that goes into that as far as technique and different things that you have to really study master, all the rest of that stuff. Not saying that football and basketball are not those different things. I know, you can see 2 or 3 plays before and basketball. Same with football. Guys like Ed Reed, who played the game at a very high level, Peyton Manning, like Tom Brady, the type of attention to detail and just the craft. Obviously Michael Jordan, guys like that, like what it took to be legends and be, just people that you'll never forget about. But even with that, what I'm saying is some of these other sports are more technically sound, but it's one of those things where those sports are so fickle with all of that there's complete turnover a lot. Go to the women's soccer team at OU. They clean house more than anybody that I've seen. I've followed them for a couple of years because I had a friend who was like a trainer there. So, I mean, to me, it's just one of those things where you just really don't know about some of these lower sports because it's so fickle, and they just bring in this kid, that kid, and it's so club oriented on the outside anyways that it doesn't really matter. It's highly specialized with some of those sports.
Well, I mean, we're talking a little bit of cross purposes here. I'm just saying that there's going to be a gutting of the non-revenue sports. If you're in the red and you don't have any way of getting out of the red, and you can get cut without causing any Title IX problems, although that's a whole other freaking discussion which we don't want to go into tonight. There's going to be some sports that are going to take a hit. They're going to be like, it's going to be, Joe C could go to a sport and say, you're not getting any scholarship money longer. We're more than happy to allow you to participate. You can be a walk-on, but we're not, for example, it's already dead man walking, but like college wrestling, for an example, right? A sport, scholarship sport, limited attendance, limited exposure following. It's the Olympic aspect of it is dying, just like Olympic sports aren't really thriving in America, really, when you think about it. So that there's a reckoning coming for sports that are in the red and are seriously in the red. It's coming. That's all I'm saying is that now you're going pay for play. Amateurism is being removed. I think you're going to see a strict line between, look, you can go to OU and we'll set up academic scholarships for you and financial aid, and you can play these sports, but we just don't have full ride scholarships any longer for X. We just don't. And sports that are unsuccessful, it's like, women's soccer at OU, have they been through 10 coaches since in the last 20 years? Maybe that's a high number, but it seems like that. You're not successful in it. You're putting a lot of money into it. It's not a great. I mean, soccer is the cheapest sport. Basketball and soccer are the cheapest sports in the world to sort of have athletes do. Right? They just are. You need a goal, and you need for basketball, and really you only need a couple of cones for soccer. So. To make goals, or when I was in England, we used to use somebody's T-shirt and jacket. So those sports are gonna, you have to just question the whole amateur athletics part of the NCAA and college sports. Just got put on life support. This decision says we're pay for play. We are semi-pro or pro. And pro franchises make money or they fold.
Jason said he's 10 minutes away, so let's let him get in here.
Well, let's switch back to recruiting a little bit, right? So
can we get back to let's go back to Bo Bentley, man, and we need to wait. We need to wait for Jason for Bo Bentley. I just want to get to people what they want. Is he the guy or what? Because I'm ready to move on from this whole Jaden O'Neal. Well, it's still. I mean, until Bentley declares, Jason's got some info. We talked offline. So let me give you my view here. Okay, between the two quarterbacks,
trying to be as objective as possible, since I've never talked to Bo Bentley, never been and I don't have a personal relationship with him. I haven't talked to his QB coach, his dad, whatever. So let's just be as objective as possible. From when I watched the two guys, okay, Jaden O'Neal fits all offenses except FSU's. So I'm just going to state that. Jaden O'Neal in the FSU offense is a terrible idea. Any other offense in the country, pretty much, he's a perfect – he can work in any other offense. Really, he can. So Arbuckle views Bentley as sort of a continuation of that Mateer, Baker kind of quarterback. Okay? And I think Arbuckle – I strongly believe that John Mateer is going to have a very good year and he's going pro. Okay, we're not going to have a second year of him. And I think if you're Arbuckle, you've got to be thinking that way too. I think that sets up next year to have Michael Hawkins take over, provided he stays around or whatever else. So I think Arbuckle thinks Bentley can adapt and execute at a higher level quicker in his offense than Jaden can. Jaden's going to have to make more of an adjustment. And while Jaden's ceiling may be higher, I think Arbuckle thinks he can get Bentley to, if he has to play Bentley earlier, Bentley will be more successful than Jaden would be earlier. That's Arbuckle. That's my view based upon the stuff I've heard of what I think of why we've ended up in this QB mess. So obviously, you can pick up a quarterback in the portal anytime, that's been proven. But at some point, you need to get off that merry-go-round. You see Ohio State and Alabama choosing to get off that merry-go-round. They're going with their prospects. So I think that's why Bentley had a better junior year, and by better I mean more complete. He played more games at a higher level than Jaden did, and that's not Jaden's fault. Jaden didn't get to play the best teams in his conference, and when he got to the playoffs, he played a couple of bad teams, and then he played a really good team. And his high school, which was missing players because of this whole mess and guys that transferred out, they when he ran into a good team, they struggled. They were also had sat around for 6 weeks, not getting any momentum. So it's a bit understandable. So I think that's where Arbuckle is with Bentley. Has Arbuckle screwed this up? Of course he has. Should he have cut Jaden loose in January and gone all in with Bentley if that's what he truly thinks? Yes, that's what he should have done. But I think he sort of incorrectly thought that Bentley was going to stay under the radar. Bentley blew up at the All-Star game, and then he didn't know how to course correct. And Brent has to be responsible for this too. Brent should have told him to course correct in the middle. So that's why I think Arbuckle thinks Bentley is if he is ranking Bentley 1A and Jaden 1B, that's why I think he's doing it. He thinks he's a quicker adaptation into his offense than Jaden will be. That could be complete BS.
It's complete BS.
Well, I mean, we all have delusions of grandeur, right? We all delude ourselves into thinking, X is the right path, and we all thought Jackson Arnold was going to be good.
Nope. Hold on.
Most of us. Okay, I thought Jackson Arnold after the bowl game was going to be good. And he wasn't. I thought he could correct what we saw in the bowl game and that he had it. I will tell you, I don't think he has it right now. And maybe he can find it on the plains of Auburn under Hugh Freeze. I seriously doubt it. I mean, Bo Nix proves that the Auburn quarterback environment is just,
his days are numbered, bruh.
so I don't know, but I'm just saying that is Arbuckle right? No, I don't think he's right. But if that's his rationale, well, okay, it's flawed, but that's it. That's why I think he thinks Bentley is 1A and Jayden is 1B. And that's as objective an answer I can give it to you, even while saying I think Bentley's wrong. That this is not the right rationale for it. So, but this is where we are. All right. So, Jason, do we want to talk about the BS wild ass rumor shit going around on the OU quarterback scene?
Oh, the Kayshawn Henderson stuff.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's put out there that was going on. I think we all know that's a smoke screen. Nobody at Oklahoma has spoken to Kayshawn Henderson about, and certainly didn't offer him $4 million to come. That is clearly so. And I mean, the video that we came across was clearly from an FSU creator. It's been leaked out from FSU so they can pull Jayden closer and away from Oklahoma.
So there's an FSU guy claiming that OU is going to flip Kayshawn Henderson by offering him a king's ransom of money. I've never heard of the FSU guy, and it's
I don't know either. But I mean, it makes sense that his little story was quite pie in the sky. I'm on the pie in the sky thing right now, but
yeah, it was amusing.
It's hilarious.
Yeah,
I was just hanging out, minding my own business in Dallas, and some guy just happens across me and says, "I do NIL for a living."
And
guess what? Your team isn't getting Kayshawn, but Oklahoma is offering him money. Come on, bro.
It was funny. So, all right. So the facts of what's actually going on with Bentley and O'Neill, as we know right now.
Yeah.
Bo Bentley's on his official visit. LSU has made whatever pitch offer they made with whatever dollar number that they made. If that dollar number was so out of bounds that OU can come anywhere near it, OU would have just canceled his visit. I mean, if it was, right? Why bring him in otherwise? Why bring him in?
Well, do you think that he was eager to just get on the phone and tell him, "Hey, this is what they offered me"? I mean, they're playing the game too. I mean,
so if they're lying about the amount, money. So we'll see. But regardless, there's been nothing. Let's rephrase it. You and I have heard nothing this week that says Bentley committed to LSU. LSU has him locked up.
That's true.
Not a single word about that.
No, there isn't.
OU's not offered another quarterback. No hint of offering another quarterback. None of that. So Bentley's on his OU visit. OU is planning a great visit. Going to red carpet, do whatever they need to do for this weekend. He will sit down with Nagy, and numbers will be discussed. Okay, I have not been told this, but OU believes that Bentley, after this visit, will quickly move to make an announcement. Let it sit for a couple of days. By the end of the week, I bet we have an announcement. Or we have an announcement date, and OU knows where they are. They know where they are in this situation. It'll leak, and they'll know where they are.
I mean, yeah.
So that's the Bo Bentley side of this. Jayden O'Neill is he going anywhere this weekend? I don't think he's going anywhere, is he?
No, he'll be at Oklahoma on the 12th throwing. He's going to come throw for everybody and see. And this is what is kind of like, huh? So he's coming to throw for Oklahoma. It's just him, and then he'll be the only legitimate quarterback there. It'll be a big day. His OV is the 20th, but again, I don't think it stretches out to the 20th. I mean, I think that they know right now whether they're going to get him or not.
Okay, so
here's the thing. The question I would have for you, I would ask you this. Where is Jim Nagy on this? Because Jim Nagy is the guy who's making decisions on this shit. Is he not?
So we have been told. Yes.
Okay. So is he pro Bentley or pro Jaden? We know what we know about Arbuckle. We know about Arbuckle.
I don't know. Is he willing to overrule the offensive coordinator? That's not necessarily what's the NFL model on this?
He told Juice he was staying out of it, but you know,
what's the NFL model on this, right? I think Nagy is probably going to let Arbuckle make this decision, and Arbuckle will live and die on it. That's my guess. I mean,
you think he's gonna throw all this money behind a player that he's. I mean,
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Well, hold on though. I'm asking. That's the question I'm asking because listen,
those are two. No, do you need to separate those? Those are two different questions. You're not going to tie me into tying them together.
Making the decisions or he's not though.
He is making the decisions on money. Yes.
Okay.
So. You know, if we can't renegotiate, we wither and die, right? That's the line from the movie, right? So I think.
Why in the fuck would Bo Bentley take less money to come to Oklahoma?
Why would Michael Fasusi do that?
I'm still not buying all that.
Well, it's true.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, you can say, okay, all right. The same sources that have told me stuff that you have relied on in the past definitively told me that about Fasusi.
Okay. No, I don't.
So it does happen. It does happen. Is it rare? You bet your ass it's rare, right? And
listen, it works for Fasusi, but that's a special case. Fasusi's mom wanted nothing to do with Austin and all that shit. And there's a difference there.
And does Bentley's dad want him to play at OU? Aren't they family? Aren't they an OU family? They're OU fans?
It's not an OU family. They're all buddy with Arbuckle, apparently, from what I understand.
Okay. Well, before the Arbuckle
Sooner Cowboys, he's been recruiting him for 10 fucking minutes since he showed up. He's been here 12 minutes.
It could be a relationship factor. LSU dived into this thing a little bit late, so
if it's such but that's the thing. We talked about this earlier. If that's the reality of it, then why are they still stringing along Jaden O'Neal?
Well, okay. So can we separate three things out here? All right,
fine, do it. But I'm telling you, you're going to have to answer all those questions for me to be sitting here telling you that I agree with any of this.
No, I'm not asking for you to agree. That's out the window. Agreement's out the window. Just
is the X factor. Come on, Bishop. Come on.
So Arbuckle saying, if Nagy says, "Look, I got to make a deal with a guy," who do I make a deal with? And if Arbuckle says, "Trying to get a deal with Bentley," okay. And if Bentley comes back and spits out some number from LSU, approved or not, and he says, "This is my hard number, match it, or I'm going to LSU." And Nagy's like, "Yeah, okay. Go love gumbo, dude." That's how this works, right? And then Nagy says, "Go fix this crap with the O'Neals because the Bentley thing's not working." Now, I don't think you get to that point this weekend without conversations in between. So I feel like there's that whatever LSU's really offering or supposedly offering, OU has to be close to it to have brought Bentley in this weekend. Because otherwise, why bother? You refocus all your energies on making sure you have the money to top whatever, to make sure that you're matching what FSU's doing, and you throw every energy behind O'Neal to try and make him feel loved again. And they're not done any of that from that degree. So we'll see what happens this weekend. I think they get Bentley. I've said that for a couple of weeks. I'm not working off that point. But we'll know by the middle of next week, one way or the other, it'll leak. in terms of where OU is. OU will make another offer at quarterback. They're already buzzing around some guys. You know, and they'll go all out to make sure, you know, O'Neill is the to make sure that O'Neill knows you're the guy. We screwed up. Mea culpa. We want you to be in Norman. Do you want to be in Norman? And now you are probably right that he may not feel that way any longer. But that's how this process is going to go. Yes, they should have. The moment Bentley all-starred at the the Navy All-American game in San Antonio, they should have cut Jaden loose and gone all in for Bentley and gotten his commitment early.
That's the whole point, though, and that's the whole point I'm trying to make. Is
they've screwed.
They really want this, if they really want,
they screwed this up.
If they want Bo Bentley so bad, then go get Bo Bentley and cut Jaden loose. Stop acting like that you're in on both of these guys when you're not. Because by not committing to either one fully and 100%, you just lost both of them probably.
Well, I don't know that you've lost. I don't know that you've lost Bentley yet, but you have not gone down the path I would have gone down to secure his commitment.
Listen,
you're completely right.
Is if it doesn't turn out that he ends up at Oklahoma, it's because you completely fumbled the bag on both of them.
Right. And look, Arbuckle's shopping in a different district. He's doing different things than he's done before. But Brent should effing know better. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, he should know better. So
that's the biggest, and that's, you know what, as much as we can sit here and talk about Arbuckle all day, Arbuckle's brand new at this.
It's Brent. He's new at shopping at this level.
You know what, Unc? Did he have multiple chicks? So what? That's not what we're talking about here. They're not like quarterbacks.
This dude is.
You guys are talking silly shit in there.
You got to get banned. Chris Mason, real quick,
yes.
Just as a sidebar.
Yes.
Who else is on campus? Are there any guys that you think will commit? Any solid commits that you can see happening? Kind of what's going down with that?
All right. I'll break this down for you. So, I think Noah Best could commit or will commit to OU. It just depends when he wants to go public with it. I think Matthew Nelson, the defensive end from Arkansas, will commit to OU time-wise, I think by end of the month. Tyler Ruxer has already set his commit date, the tight end, on July 7th. I think OU gets Tyler Ruxer. I think OU gets Braxton Lindsey, the linebacker from Arkansas I was talking about. And I think OU gets Tavion Branch, who's committing next week. And I think OU and Todd Bates has to be able to out-recruit Rutgers, even with Rutgers having a distance advantage. I don't live in a world where Todd Bates doesn't get that done. I think Dallas Dickerson could commit to OU. OU's his best offer. You could see something break there. The wild card, again, is Davion Gross. Speaks to no one, no interviews. No one knows where he's leaning. No one knows where he's visiting. All I know is that he has strong family connections to OU. And sometimes if he's visiting with his parents, as I presume he is, mom went to OU, mom loves OU. Emmett Jones is a good recruiter. Sooners for Life. Can you put Sooners for Life message up? I'll get to that in just a sec. We're already moving on to the next quarterback fiasco. I think Davion Gross could be the wild card this weekend. There are two players to watch just because they're the only guys OU is recruiting at the position. And it is Derek Johnson, a cornerback from California, and Danny Odom, a cornerback from Florida. They are the only cornerback offers visiting in June. They are both 6'1", 6'2", really good athletes, and could be. I think they would be a nice addition, and OU will probably just take one of them because they signed a big cornerback class last year. So that's the full list of everyone that's visiting. The only other guy is it's kind of a wild card is Desmond Green. He's a big offensive guard from South Carolina. He has an elite offer set. He's 6'4", 340. He's been a Norman 3 or 4 times, and you just kind of never know when someone just decides Bill is they're going to be their guru. So that's a possibility. So I'm happy to move on to a Peyton Houston discussion, Chris, unless there's something else in that exhaustive recap you want to delve deeper into. You're on mute.
There goes Cruel.
Well, Jed Cruel is visiting on the 20th. Okay, so he's the premier guy for the 20th, depending upon what goes on. So Sugai English asks, any new running backs? No. It's still the Estrada kid from El Paso and DeZephon Walker from Missouri. DeZephon, I think, visits next weekend or the middle of next week. I think they're probably going to try and push him to the 20th. So that's there. If OU doesn't get DeZephon Walker, OU will just sit back. Kyle Dupuis, you're going to have to give me a year for that name. All right, so let's just go through these one by one. Peyton Houston, update Peyton Houston. He was at camp throwing the ball. It's like his 9th time he's been to Norman. John Batir spent 10 to 15 minutes with him, going over his throwing, watching him work out, giving him advice. Arbuckle was with him all the time. His parents, my sources say his parents love OU. The only thing stopping OU from having a commitment right now is the on-the-field stuff. If John Batir has a good year this fall, Peyton Houston's a Sooner. If OU is flailing away with a poor offense again, Peyton Houston will go somewhere else. Felix Ojo is officially visiting OU on 6/20. OU will, in the game of NIL poker, OU will force Texas to go all in.
Yep.
Like,
pay it all. Like
all.
Max.
Yep. Yeah. Whatever you think.
And they have to do it too, by the way.
And they have to do it. Now, they're also they've offered 3 new offensive tackles in the last couple of weeks, Texas has. Which is if you're getting Felix Ojo and you already have a offensive tackle in your class and you're getting Felix Ojo, that's a little weird. So I don't know how to read. Felix Ojo is going across the country. He's taken like 9 visits. He's at Ohio State, Ole Miss. He's been everywhere. So
you guys got to stop believing in this house cap stuff, folks. Stop believing in that stuff.
So, and it's irrelevant this year. It's irrelevant to this recruiting. All right. Everyone's asking about Deuce Gerald's. Let me explain this real simple. Deuce Gerald's is 6'1", 265, 270 at best. Okay. He's a pretty thick kid already. He can't play at 6'1", 265, and he's not an end. Not quick enough to be an end. He can't.
Not big enough in any way, shape, or form to be
an SEC every down defensive tackle.
He ain't.
Okay, he's really good, but it's so, and he's going to command David Stone money. Okay, I'm just telling you, he ain't David Stone. Not out of high school. Okay, he's not. So what Bates has done is Bates has found 4 or 5 guys that are taller, longer, and project bigger than Gerald's. And they all have excellent film. The only one who's really raw is T-Ron Richardson. And again, the guy's 6'5", 285. He will be 315 within a year, and he shouldn't be able to move as fast as he does now. Is he using the right technique and the right pad level? No, but none of the high school defensive tackles are playing with the right pad level. So if Bates can fix him, he's absurd. So OU has had to.
Those are the projects that you want in the SEC. You don't want projects that are 6'1", 265.
Well, he's not a project. The other problem is he maxed out, right? Is he already as good as he's going to be? You know, you see that.
But for you, that's a project in the SEC. It's a gamble on whether or not that guy's good enough to play in this league. And I would tell you, I'd go with the 6'5", 285 dude all day long over that.
And if you can get 3 of them for the same price as
right.
Jalen, as Deuce Gerald's, Sooner Cowboys, we don't know that. We don't know
he
that.
Ain't maxed out. How do you know this? Because is he all of a sudden going to add 6 inches and 50 pounds? Come on, bro. Come on.
I'm calling him 6'1", and I'm being generous.
Get out of here, man.
So, okay. Jalen Battle, the Oklahoma City guy. I mean, all right. So Todd Bates he needs at least 3 D tackles in this class. He already has Brian Harris. I think he's adding Tavion Branch middle of this week. Taj Overton is probably the 3rd tackle in this class. Taj plays at a better level, is just as explosive as Battle, and the guy from Tahlequah who visited Kingston Hall, who may be 6'2", 265. Once they get to OU camp. So Jalen Battle is a really good prospect, really going to do a good job at college, and maybe OU will regret him not getting him. But they're already lined up. And then the 4th guy they're going to take will be either Elijah Golden or Valdon Sone. And Valdon Sone is 6'4", 320 already. And is a top 50 player in the country by one service. Because that service is paying attention to him and the other ones are, I think, kind of missing the boat. So Todd Bates' dance card is full. He's only going to add guys like Jalen Battle or Kingston Hall in the fall if he strikes out on everybody. And I don't think he's striking out on everybody. By August 30th, he'll have 3 D tackles, maybe 4. Okay? So Deuce Gerald, and again, like if you could have got Deuce Gerald's right off the bat for a number you could live with, that's fine. But OU, I mean, guys, he's an Ole Miss legacy. They're going to throw stupid money at him, and he's, again, he's a good player. I like him, but there are questions. There are measurable questions. Okay. The average height, build, Kelly Gregg, Kelly Gregg is a run stuffing nose guard. Okay. He played in the NFL at 6 foot, 330? Something like that. Deuce Gerald.
What they look like in high school, though, and what they're going to look like 3 years into their college career and trying to become an NFL player, it's not close. When you start talking about guys that have the measurables versus guys that don't, the chances that you're going to be able to do that I know they're showing Deuce Gerald's at 6'2.5", which is total bullshit.
I've seen that kid. You watch him.
Listen, I know. I'm sitting there watching him stand next to BV. Come on,
he's barely taller than BV.
I know.
And BV's 5'11". We have.
Guys, this is where all I'm going to say all I want to add to this is these are the project. You don't go with the guy. You would rather take the project of the guy that has the measurables, and especially with the staff that develops the way this one does on the defensive side of the ball. You have to go with the guy that projects to the NFL, not the guy that, he's really good in high school and he's expensive.
And let's by the way, guys,
come on.
Is Georgia going nuts after him?
Nope. They're warm on him, but
they're not going nuts after him, though.
No.
Is Alabama?
I don't think so.
No. I mean, Michigan is. which I'm a little surprised because he doesn't fit. I mean, maybe in the
Right
Big
now,
Ten.
right now they're showing he's going to Ohio State on June 20th. He'll
Right,
be at
and
Michigan on the
Ohio
18th.
State, their scheme can live with a 6'1", fast, 285-pound defensive tackle every down. Their scheme lives on that. Our scheme in the SEC, not living with that. Okay, just not. So, and again, so guys, 2027, Jalen Brewster, probably going to be the number one defensive tackle in the country. OU will spend every dime they have. He's from Dallas. He loves Bates. He's been to Norman 5-7 times, and the guy is 6'4", 300 pounds, and he's an absolute beast. Okay, was a running back. I've been talking about him on my. If you're on my Patreon, I've been talking about him for like 2 years. So OU will spend the money on an elite guy with elite measurables, and they will. They will not get outbid for Jalen Brewster. They'll spend every dime they have to land that guy, to lean on him, and he's from Dallas.
Can we, speaking of 2027, just a little sidebar, side piece, do not spend too much time on this, but can we get back into the Zach Rowe bidding war, or do you think that ship is
No. As long as OU's winning this fall, okay, stupid prediction number one. If Brent has a good year, OU has a good year, the three verbals, they will land for 2027. The four verbals, they will land for 2027, which will give this class serious top 10 vibes are Peyton Houston, Cooper Witten, Jalen Brewster, and Zane Rowe.
Zane Rowe, yeah. There you
and
go.
Then you add Cooper Hackett, Caden Presley, the two in-state offensive linemen, who, I didn't say this, Josh McCuistion and everybody else is saying it, two best offensive linemen in-state in the last 25 years. Okay? The only guy better would be Wes Sims from Weatherford back in the day.
They said the same about Andrew Rain.
Well, Rain, yeah, and Rain was Rain.
Okay, Chris is like white whale, Andrew Rain.
The white whale. Okay, well they say that, but
I didn't say that. I didn't say all of that. That's insane.
Yeah, well, Andrew Rain was a borderline top 100 by one service. Cooper Hackett is like the effing number 8 player in the nation by three of the 4 services. So, that's the difference. So if OU wins this fall, they will have the potential for a top 10 class in 2027 because of the elite guys that they are in on. 4 of the top 20 players in the nation lean to OU if OU can get their shit done on the field. Okay? That's just the way they've recruited them and the way they've been playing.
The way it always goes. The teams that win, they get the best players.
Well, not always, but yeah. I mean, Michigan won a national championship and wasn't getting the elite of the elite to do it.
Well, but that's according to these recruiting services that don't watch these guys.
Or don't watch them as much as they should, or don't watch them in different ways. But I'm just saying that, when Cooper Witten as a sophomore goes to the OU camp and just dominates wide receivers and everybody, and Brent is basically, drooling over him, and his dad is Jason Witten, I'm like, okay, all right. And he has offers from everybody. Recruiting services or not, and you watch his film and he's like, okay, all right.
Well, there's just so many other factors other than who's the best player that goes into the rankings.
Yeah. So I think that's, somebody was asking about Braylon somebody. I think it was Kyle Dupuis.
Stop
it. Braylon Calais. All right, I'm going to have to look up. You're hitting me. I don't usually have to do this, but I'm going to have to look up his name.
He said 2027.
Yeah, I know. See if it jogs anything from my. All right, here we go. All right, On3's got something on him. Okay. Well, he's from Louisiana. He's good looking, got good ratings. Sorry, I don't know anything more about him other than
Going to
that.
LSU probably.
Well, he's from Louisiana and he's a wide receiver. So he's got LSU. So, yeah, he's going to LSU, Kyle Dupuis. Unless LSU doesn't want him.
Let's stay there. Let's stay there for a second. What about this this Fields kid, or the kid we always talk about, but we haven't really delved deep?
The quarterback.
Yeah, he was on campus. He threw. He looked good. I'm still trying to figure out how he doesn't have an offer coming out of Destrehan with the stats he has. So I don't quite understand that. He threw it. He threw. I think if OU loses, okay. So if OU loses Bentley, keeps O'Neal. I'm not sure we believe that, but let's say they get Bentley and they lose O'Neal. That's a kid they would probably offer to get a second scholarship quarterback in the class. I think if they lose O'Neal and Bentley, OU's going to have to make some offers to some other folks. They just are going to have to go get some, going to have to go steal somebody else's quarterback for a bowl. Who that is and how that pans out, I have no idea. Maybe they throw $4 million at Cation Henderson. And that story turns into reality through a bizarre set of circumstances. I don't see that happening, but okay. Who'd be
maybe they found out that they're getting neither one, and so they threw $4 million at him. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's a sinister. I mean, that Arbuckle's playing 9-dimension checkers while we're have no idea what he's doing. So Lake Dawson's going to be he's a scout. He's a scout providing his expertise on both portal players and high school players. Yeah. And he's a great addition. And
absolutely.
There's a lot of Nagy bashing going on. And some people, especially on the OU Insider message board, bashing Nagy because he's moved on from Mason James. Like this is a murder. It's like he murdered Mason James instead of just saying he wasn't going to recruit him. Okay. Instead of not going to recruit him. So I think Nagy's hires have all been great. I mean, his staff looks about as good as you could really ask for in terms of how he's built it. The only objection I might have is, does he have a Texas high school guy? That would be the only objection I have. Would have liked to have seen him hire someone for the Texas high school ranks who OU really respects in terms of their ability to evaluate talent. That's it. Other than that, he's hired excellent guys with serious experience and serious evaluation, skills and resumes to help OU find better talent, avoid the 5-star bust, right? Even more important than getting the guys with measurables is getting off the guys that aren't really that good, like the highly rated guys that are demanding a lot of money that aren't really that good. These guys can help us.
There's more guys out there that are good than what they tell you there is.
Yeah, there are. Ashton Jeanty is a classic example of someone of OU just, and everyone else.
It happens every year.
Blowing it. Yeah. Just blowing it.
Chris Mason, I do have a recruiting question, but it's not OU related. But I just want to make sure that you've gotten everything out that you need to with OU recruiting thus far.
Yeah, again, everyone's. If you're on my Patreon, I did a class prediction, and it was my best case realistic prediction of who OU gets. Okay,
and I don't want to bust the bubble, but I definitely want you to end this with how many you think OU takes this year. And on top of that, maybe do we get a top 10 class, or are we looking at it? What's the realistic?
Okay. So on that Patreon class, I had OU taking 25 kids. 19 are ranked 4 stars by at least one service. Okay.
Hmm.
At least one service thinks they're a 4-star. At least one service thinks they're a 4-star talent. And the rankings are so screwed up right now. Like, they're a mess. Like, the number 2 player in the nation on one service is like 162 on another. It's just messed up. Apparently, we're losing Chris to some comments in the chat, I guess.
It was my comment.
Uh-oh.
I took it out. I took it.
Okay.
But I really wish you would, though. I mean, my God, it's so bad. It's so bad.
So I think OU will sign. I think OU, let's just put it this way. OU, I think, will have at least 20 kids by the time they kick against Michigan. And I think OU will hold back 3 or 4 spots, depending upon how the team does this fall, to go back to some elite kids, spend some official visit money, spend some NIL money on some difference makers who are giving them more attention this fall after putting a good product on the field.
Sorry, Chris.
Let's say that does happen. Do you then try to make another run at the 2 kids that you thought were gimmies, or just obvious OU commits? I'm hiding the 8 ball, but basically SMU. Do you go after those 2 kids that the lineman and then also the wide receiver, or do you think?
I don't think you have to go after the wide receiver. I think they're going to get as good or better guys at wide receiver. I think if they land the Devon Robeson kid from Pasadena, Texas, who visits on June 20th, I think that kid has the potential to be as good as Toa Katoa. So you don't have to go back and get an interior offensive lineman. The guy, okay, so the 3 names I think OU should roll back around with if they have a fantastic season would be Adam Balagon Ali, the linebacker from Florida, Talalona Ely, the linebacker from Hawaii, who's probably going to choose USC, although OU just did get a UCLA, poach UCLA's director of scouting talent area. And then the third guy would be Celesi Moa, who is an elite safety out of Utah, 6'1", 180, 4.4 laser at one of those combines. Would give you the elite speed at safety that would help you. So I think those are the guys, and I don't know, maybe make another run at Felix Ojo, right? You up the money and say, look, Mike Fasusi is starring for us as a freshman. He's going to make he's already being projected as a 1st-round pick. Why are you going to Texas? Come here. So, but the class I projected, best case, is around 12 or 13. I don't see how OU gets above that unless Bo Bentley is the quarterback and he becomes a 5-star. You get Jake Krull and he becomes a 5-star. And to get in the top 10, you're going to need another elite player. And the only guy I can think of who's visiting that meets that is Felix Ojo. And I mean, that's a little bit of the bullshit of the rankings, right? If you get Felix Ojo, your class goes from like 13th to 10th.
Mm-hmm.
But if a bunch of OU players get re-ranked and get higher rankings, and let's remember the world of college football recruiting rankings is about to have like a Vesuvius Krakatoa moment.
Yeah.
Rivals and On3 are apparently merging their rankings this fall.
Yep.
And I can tell you right now, they have vastly different opinions on players.
Yep.
Like vastly.
Well, On3 is just going to stop doing it. Is what?
No, they're going to merge them.
Well,
I mean, what they
the 2 staffs is what
the staffs are going to merge them. So I mean, Tyler Ruxer is the number 165 player in the nation and On3, and he is a 5.5 low 3-star on Rivals. Okay, so how do you rationalize that? So for everyone wondering about the recruit and the composite rankings are about to go back to 33, 33, 33. So ESPN is about to jump up in importance in rankings, and they don't rank their guys other than twice a year. So when you're talking rankings, I take an Olympic view of this. Take a look at the player, watch the film, look at the measurables, and has one of the recruiting services figured out he can play. And if that's the case, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to use the highest ranking the kid has.
You got to trust. You got to trust your scouting department. You should trust your scouting department a hell of a lot more than you should trust Shannon
Terry.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. No, I mean, so you just again.
I understand that Josh Pate will tell you otherwise. I don't care.
Well, I everyone's like, oh, it's a bunch of 3-star Jags. I'm like, well, you don't know that. You haven't watched any film. You are only going off the rankings by one service. And, I've done this for years, and consistently, I'm just like, I don't understand how this kid's ranked this low. I mean, Eddie Pierre-Louis, Rivals thought he was a top 100 player, and On3 thought he was a number 7. Okay, all right. And On3 thought he was the number 700 player in the nation. It's like, okay, how do you reconcile that? I just don't. On3, until the ranking services tell me who is doing the evaluation, when they're doing it, and how often they evaluate players. And they transparently tell me all of those factors. Who is it? How are they doing it? What methodology are they doing? And how often do they do it? Till they do that, I don't trust any of them. And I've said that for years on Rivals. I used to tell that to Josh on Sooner Scoop all the time. Can you just get me these 3 pieces of information? Who did the evaluation? What methodology do they use for the evaluation? Was it in person or film? And how often are they reviewing film or the athlete in person? Just give me that. Give me those 3 variables. Give me that transparency and rigor about what you do, and I'll shut up on rankings. But until you do, and then On3 does this bizarre, like, kids drop 100 spots, jump up 100 spots.
Yeah, they do it on all of them too.
And it's on all the guys. On Rivals does a more incrementalism approach. Guys kind of drift up little by little, which means they don't have as much swings. But when they miss a guy, they don't. If they find a guy in the middle of their senior year, he's only going to get so high. He won't ever jump up if he's legitimately.
They're trickle. They trickle into him.
247 takes a course somewhere in the middle, and I don't know what ESPN does. Their rankings are so, 247 at least gives me a calculator. I can reproduce Rivals rankings. I can't reproduce what On3's doing. I've tried and quit. And ESPN is just fucking making up that's subjective. They have a subjective ranking system completely.
Yeah.
Whoever's showing up for the Under Armour game gets ranked high. Maybe that's what they do. Their TV game. So does anybody in our audience have any legit recruiting questions that they want answered? All right. So Chris with a K, 20 guys signed, top 15 class. I think OU holds back some scholarships to attack. If they're having, they have good home games, really good home games.
Yeah.
And they'll get night home games too, right? So they've got the Ole Miss. Missouri's not a good home game, but you can still bring kids in for it. Right, so they've got good games this fall. You got a good game for Michigan, right? Good home game for Michigan. They can bring kids in. Then they've got, then you've got Missouri. They've got Ole Miss, which will be a good home game. So they've got good home games where they can bring kids in. And if they roll out of Dallas and they're 6-0, let me 6-0 out of Dallas. That's right. They're 6-0 rolling out of Dallas. Yeah, they're going to probably call up some kids and say, you want to come to Norman? We've got official visits left to use, and you haven't visited us officially yet. So
you want to come join Death Row. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, you use leverage points when you can, right? And right now, OU OU's lost out on has lost momentum with a number of kids because everyone's been telling them that Brent's getting fired.
Yeah.
None of the coaches recruiting you will be there next year, right? And the only way to defeat that message after his 6
win. Yeah,
is go win some freaking football games.
So my question that's unrelated to OU recruiting, now that we kind of got that wrapped up, people, is simply this right here. So has Lincoln Riley discovered a new way to get verbal commits? Because
yes, he has.
Yes, they spend $20,000 a month on them. That's what they do.
Yeah, I heard that. So is that a part of like the full NIL deal where they sign and they get paid, or is that just something extra that he's doing? Because I feel like nobody's talking about this because I was looking at
everybody else is doing it, but Kirby likes to throw shade at everybody. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's everybody's doing it.
Me and Unc were talking just a little while ago before the show started, and I said, "Hey man," we were looking up like the top quarterbacks, trying to see where Bo Bentley was at, and I prefer right now at least. Rivals would always have a special place in my heart, but 247 is where I try to go. I tend to lean there, right? So I'm looking on there and I'm looking at, Jaden, and I'm like, how the hell he keep going down? Like he's 4-star, 3-star, this and that. That's ridiculous in itself. I see Bo Bentley where he's at, but I saw that Lincoln has the number 4, according to 247, the number 4 quarterback in Ryder Lyons, however you say his name. Yeah. Then you have the Jonas Williams kid, that's the number 13. So he has a 5-star and a 4-star in that class. He just took a 5-star. I'm just trying to figure out what the hell is going on up there at SC. We know that he will not hold on to one of those kids. Somebody's going to transfer eventually, regardless. Or somebody's going to decommit and go somewhere else.
I think Lyons is already out.
Oh, you do?
Well, and Ryder Lyons is he's going on a mission for 2 years.
He's going to BYU from what I understand.
Well, he's going on a mission for 2 years, so everybody does that ends up going up. They don't have Lyons, so basically he's prepaying kids for verbals. Ooh. Okay, verbal to us now and start making money now.
Because it helps him.
Yeah. So will they hold on to these kids? I don't know that they're going to hold on to, the top cornerback from Ohio or the top defensive end from Chicago or any of the Georgia kids. But then will they hold on to the Cali kids? Yeah, probably. I mean, why not, right? I mean,
well,
will they if they have a shitty year, they'll lose a whole bunch of them. Like, are they holding
it's just like what we were talking about with Oklahoma right now. You got to go win.
Yeah,
and are they going to go win? I doubt it.
Not to the level that this recruiting class is. And the problem with prepaying these guys is a little bit like giving Eric Dickerson a Trans Am before signing day. Okay? He's just going to keep the Trans Am and sign with SMU. So Texas A&M and go turn the Trans. He got like 4 Trans Ams on signing day and sold 3 of them. So somebody close to putting a CB for Bentley for what? To who? Whoever's mentioning that. So yeah, I mean it's Chris, it's a great scheme, but it's a Ponzi scheme, house of cards waiting to tumble. Oregon's coming after them.
Like everything else he does.
Oregon's coming after them. They won't keep the guys that aren't California or West Coast. The big defensive tackle they got from Richardson, Texas, he'll end up at Texas probably. It's a big class, but the other thing is they have 26-7 verbals. That's why they're the number 1 freaking class in the country. No one else has who recruits at an elite level has more than like 17, 18. Clemson has I think like 20 verbals. They just got a guy I really like, Carter Scruggs. Hoped he would have chose OU, but he's going to Clemson. And their point value at rivals is almost the same. So, so it's, Clemson has, how many verbals do they have? They're going to tell me they got 18. So they'll pick up 2 guys. They'll be like 100 points away from USC by the time they complete their class. And I just don't think USC is going to, I mean, Auburn. Okay. So let's just call it like it is. Auburn, A&M, and Tennessee started the whole officially visit and there's a goodie bag for you. Old school style cheating. I mean, this USC is just doing old school style cheating in a new manner, and no one really cares any longer because the House settlement's coming, and everyone is going to be basically cheating. So that's what he's doing. It's an interesting scheme, but if he doesn't put the wins up on the field, it'll collapse like a house of cards, and he'll be back to where he was. And actually, he's setting himself up for a bigger fail this way because, it'll be a bigger fail. So, because they'll then be asking, why did you lose all these guys? You're just doing the same thing again. So, we'll see. I mean, there's the new GM they brought in. At least, he fired what's his name, the strength and conditioning guy,
Benny Wiley,
Mr. Aerobicize, as our fan base derided him. So the new GM is probably Mr. Tybo.
Blanks. Yeah.
So I think there's something better going on there as if you're a USC fan, but they're still Lincoln can still very much fuck this up and screw the pooch and lose the guys that they have. But the other thing,
they're doing what they did last year, which is using whatever this deal is that they've got with them, especially the guys that are from out of state, to leverage more money out of the other guy. I mean, it's just like anybody else.
Yeah, and also the other thing is, there are somebody in California, street agent or something, has convinced the top guys to reclassify, right? So they've got a couple of these reclassification kids. And as we know, take reclassification kids at your risk because they don't always pan out. And that's a couple of the guys. So somebody's convinced these guys to reclassify and get the money before the House settlement means they can't have any money. That's the argument. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but that's been what's been told to the kids. Reclassify before the House settlement means you can't get big money. So that's what they've got a couple of the guys like that. Mark Bowman, big tight end.
Throw up that last Riley comment there, Chris.
Really? Well, all right. Well, yeah.
EAX.
Okay. All right.
Tybo.
Yeah.
Well, Pilates.
Mr. Simmons.
Pilates, yeah.
Pilates, whatever. However you can make it work. That's fine.
Insanity.
It's fine. It's fine. So however that works. But yeah, that's how he's doing it. I mean, it's like, why is USC getting all these verbals? Because they're paying for them. I mean, it's kind of sad and desperate in its own way.
Yeah, listen, Zumba's, he brings Zumba to the house. It is what it is. You know what I mean?
Well, it's LA, so I heard the training table now has avocado toast. So
hot yoga.
This panel could use some Pilates. Ooh, Boomer 129 with the vicious comment. All right.
Who cares?
So, all right, whatever. So, anything else? We're at nearly 2 hours.
Yeah. I really don't have anything. Jason, I'll just go back and say it again, man. I think it's a step in the right direction, but again, NCAA, look, we're telling you, this is the alley-oop that you needed. But the problem is that even if you do connect on this alley-oop and you get the slam dunk, you still down by 15 in the fourth quarter with 3 seconds on the clock. I don't know what to tell you. You are fighting the inevitable. You have to
You're
fix
not
a
gonna get
number
over
of
it. No.
things. You have to fix a number of things within the next 3 months. You have to do it before. You can wait until after week 0, but it has to be done before week 2. You have to get a couple of things done. Tampering, polishing, and establishing, and even polishing further polishing this revenue model. Third off, you're going to have to figure out some type of CBA or whatnot that you can go into, or at least get progressive talks around.
Yes.
You're going to have to figure out it with the CBA, what kind of cap is there? A cap? What are we doing about high school? You're gonna have to figure out a number of things. If you can do those 3 things right there, I think I mentioned tampering in that as well.
You did.
If you can figure those things out, and maybe
And one portal window.
I was about to say the portal stuff. So if we can get the portal figured out. If you can get those 4 things done,
all of that stuff gets done with the collective bargaining, because you give, you get. You know what I mean? That's what collective bargaining is. They have no intentions of doing that part. All they want to do is just try to ram stuff down all these people's throat, and it's not going to work out. The Deloitte Clearinghouse is not going to work. The second that they nix an NIL deal for one of these big time programs, make no mistake, the shit is over with. Tennessee's already fighting it. They've already got their governor passing laws to subvert the shit because they know there's no way you can hold them to it. There's no way. Every court ruling that's had anything to do with NIL or portal or anything else has been shut down immediately. There's no chance that this flies. There's no chance that it flies. No chance. You have to go to collective bargaining. At some point, you're going to have to bite the bullet and realize this is not about the athletes. This is about the NCAA, the coaches, the presidents, the schools, and the conferences. This has nothing to do with the players and what they're doing. They didn't make any of the damn rules to begin with. All these rules are not their rules.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, that's I was not anticipating an hour on the House settlement in the middle of our recruiting chat, that was fun. House settlement on a Friday night at 9 o'clock. They drop the ruling. Talk about PR 101 for something shitty you don't like.
Yeah.
It's usually a coach getting shit canned for kiddie porn gets fired on a Friday at 9 o'clock.
Right. Well, yeah, they're sliding it by there. I mean, it is what it is, but
yeah,
I'm just saying, I wait and see. Wait and see. I mean, they've not won a single court case for 4 years, the NCAA.
No, because they've been acting like the NFL without the NFL structure.
Well, a state university, you can't have a state university not going by the rules that the state has, the laws that the state has enacted. That's the whole thing. The state law should trump federal law, should it not?
Well, I think that gets back to I think that's a debate that goes back to 1789. So sure. I don't consider myself constitutionally equipped to answer that question.
I'm with you there.
On labor law and whether state law trumps federal law.
I mean, and it all boils down to the stuff that they really, really want to shove down your throat, they do, and the stuff that they don't, they pass it off to the state.
Yeah. But that question, does state law trump federal law? That's an ongoing debate.
Yeah.
We ended up with a civil war over that topic right there.
It's just one of those days, man. Just one of those days where NCAA and always finds itself in a very precarious situation.
They've always got the "kick me" sign strapped to their back. That's
I feel like the entire NCAA is on that Pilates that Pilates trend as well. P90X and hot yoga. I don't get it. But with that being said, people, look, we've been on here for damn near 2 hours. We've given you the recruiting, we've given you the house settlement, we've talked and taken shots at USC. We even had a USC fella in here. No Texas fans tonight. It's really interesting. I know Texas just I'm not even going to announce that. Just don't love them winning anything on Oklahoma soil. Okay, but with that being said, no Texas fans tonight. That is very interesting. It must be a slow night in Texas right now. So, so I guess we'll just go from there. Guys, any parting shots before you go?
Recruiting is not cratering. OU will be fine.
It's 9:57 and Texas still sucks.
That is very true. And even with that right there, if anything goes down with Bo Bentley and all the rest of that, please, guys, we will definitely be back. So, that being said, we are out.